Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhitam Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhitam Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Yuge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Sthaneva Kena Hetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanjotita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhitam Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Yuge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Sthaneva Kena Hetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Yuge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Sthaneva Kena Hetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Ladies?
Kasmin Yuge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Sthaneva Kinahetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin Yuge Pravritteyam.
Kasmin Juge Pravritteyam.
Sthaneva Kinahetuna.
Staniva Kinahetuna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kuta Sanchodita Krishna.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kritavan Samhita Muni.
Kasmin. In which? Juge. Period. Pravrita was begun. Sham. Sorry. Iyam. This. Stane. In the place. Va. Or. Kena. On what? Hetuna. Ground. Kuta. Where from? Sanchodita. Inspired by. Krishna. Krishna Dvapayana Vyas. Kritavan. Compiled. Samhitam. Vedic literature. Muni. The learned. Translation. In what period and in what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvapayana Vyas, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is a special contribution of Srila Vyasadeva, There are so many inquiries by the learned Sonaka Muni. It was known to them that Srila Vyasadeva had already explained the text of the Vedas in various ways up to the Mahabharata for the understanding of less intelligent women, Sudras, and fallen members of the family of twice-born men. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all of them because it has nothing to do with anything mundane, so the inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. I'm going to just read the next verse as well. Tasya putro mahajogi samadrin nirvikalpaka ekantamatir unidro gudho mudha iveyate. Translation. His, Vyasadeva's son, was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. Purport. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and thus he remained always alert not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned soul have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is sometimes like a dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. Conditioned soul and liberated soul may apparently be on the same platform, but factually they're differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in matter, whereas the liberated soul is completely indifferent to matter. This indifference is explained as follows. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshul Militam Jina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So here we have the assembly of sages, the Brisbane sages. They're in Naimisharanya and Brajban, and we're hearing about the appearance of Sri Narada Muni. So the appearance of a great sage, of course, is always something of celebration. Even in the modern day, they have email. They send out emails. They say the sages are coming. So the sages previously, they also had some way of knowing that the sages were coming. Of course, before that begins, the sages are asking some questions. So the Prabhupada points out that this questioning period, this time of questioning, is an integral part of human life. Actually, not just human life, but human beings that have intelligent questions that go beyond anamoy. He says everybody has questions, even the birds. They wake up in the morning. I woke up this morning, it was the distinctive sound of birds in Brisbane, I think it is. They've got this. Some of them are pretty annoying, but anyway. But they wake you up, so I haven't heard a bird singing in the morning for quite some time. Either they've eaten them or they just don't live in Hong Kong. So to hear the birds in the morning is something unusual. But birds generally, or any animal for that matter, they have this idea. They wake up in the morning, the first thing they think of is, wow, where's food? Where's brekkie? Right? Where's breakfast? It's like you're on the aeroplane, Excuse me, sir, breakfast? What? Leave me alone. Right? People have this tendency to always be absorbed in their material situation. I'm sure all those of you that are parents, they know this very strongly. The first thing, children, they wake up, bring us food. Right? They wake up, and the parents have to satisfy their needs. So this is life in the material world. But there is another life. There is another life, and that's explained here, that there's conditioned life and there's spiritual life. And the difference between those two lies in the activities. Of course, many places Srila Prabhupada says that the materialistic person can't understand the activities of the liberated soul, or the person engaged in spiritual life. They think, even they see a liberated person, they think, oh, he's just like me, he's just doing all the same things. He's eating, he's sleeping, he's walking here and there, he's inquiring about different things. He's just like me, a little bit spiritual, but, ultimately just like me. I've got to do all the things and he's got to do everything. So what's the difference? What's the difference? The difference is the goal of the spiritual person, or the goal of the aspiring spiritual person even, is they have a different focus in their life. Even the most neophyte devotee, the beginner devotee, he has this understanding that, okay, I may be engaged in many things in this world. I have to keep body and soul together somehow. I have to engage in my occupational activities. I have to interact with the material world. But my goal, I have some other goal in mind. Isn't it? The devotee has a different goal in mind. His goal is, he's looking long term. Of course, he's always looking short term also. That's why he comes to a temple. Right? He also has some short term goal, vision. He wants to also see the deity. He wants to see Krishna. But he also has that goal that he wants to be united with Krishna in loving pastimes. And this life he spends practicing that, right? Just like somebody who, they train for their big race. They're going to do something. They're always training. They do their training laps, and so the idea is that when the race comes, and they can be successful. Of course, the beauty in Krishna consciousness is that everybody can get success. I remember many years ago there was a business in Milton. This guy was a skeptic. And he used to have this sign on his wall that said, in every race there's only one winner. Chances are, and everybody else is a loser. Chances are you're one of them. I used to look at that and think, what? Right? That's it. In the material world, there's only one winner. You come first, and that's it. Otherwise, you don't count. But in Krishna consciousness, everybody's a winner. Nobody comes last, or nobody's a loser. Krishna explains it to Arjuna that, Arjuna is also asking questions. What happens if you don't make it? Right? You just perish like a riven cloud. Where do you go? And Krishna explains to him that, any advancement that you make on this path is always preserved. You're putting you're saving, right? You're saving a little bit. Okay, chant some good rounds today. I did some puja, I did just Prabhupada today or something. Right? I put out the rubbish, and I was nice to somebody. Right? So in this way, we build up some spiritual bank balance, and all of this qualifies us. Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita that after many births and deaths, whose knowledge surrenders unto me. But he also said one who's been pious in this life and in previous lives also. So there's a cumulative effect. And the beauty of what Srila Prabhupada gave us is that he said in this one lifetime, anybody can go back to Godhead. There are so many different blessings, so to speak, so many different benedictions that the great sages give us, that if you do this, you can get that. Just to keep us encouraged, because as we were saying last night, everybody's looking for encouragement in this world. Nobody likes to be kind of, you're at this and you're at that. Everybody likes to be encouraged, and everybody likes to be acknowledged. So Krishna's very good at that. Whatever little endeavor you do, Krishna, he sees that and he appreciates that. And because of that, we're still here. Krishna's kindly letting us, despite our shortcomings and despite our And Narada is somehow Krishna is still letting us do something for him. So these great sages that came together, they come there to encourage each other, and also they're waiting. Where's Narada Muni? And they're asking some questions. So here in this questions is, they're trying to find out not just where's food, but they're trying to find out where the great sages, where's spiritual life, what's it like to be a great sage. So Prabhupada says, just like Sukadev Goswami, there's Sutta Goswami, Sukadev Goswami, Vyasadev, Narada Muni, so many great sages, and they get encouragement from each other. So they're always awaiting, when can they hear, when can they get that association. And the liberated souls and the conditioned souls, as Prabhupada mentions, they have different conceptions of life. When we meet a materialistic person, why do we call them a materialistic person? I remember many years ago in a program in Toowoomba, Devamrita Maharaj asked the audience, so what's a spiritualist and what's a materialist? Anybody in the audience know? So the answers were quite interesting. One person said, well, I think a materialistic person is somebody who's got more than what I've got. He's a materialist because he's got more than me. And they said, so how do you define a spiritual person? He said, well, spiritual thing, the spirituality is, like the relationship I have with my girlfriend or my dog. Many people have a really bizarre understanding of what spirituality is and what material life is. So these sages are quite clear on what is spiritual and what is material. Material means the things that keep you here, things that, that are selfishness, basically. The selfishness of the living entity is that, because Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, aham savasya prabhavo matasa, everything emanates from me, both material and spiritual. So what is material and what is spiritual is really our own, we create that concept. The living entity creates that concept of material things, because they want to enjoy it, so therefore it becomes material. And they look at it and they think, that's meant for me. The materialists, they'll go to the motor show and they'll look at all the cars and they'll look at it and think, yeah, I can picture myself in that should be mine. They look at things in that way. We look at the whole world like that, isn't it? And we're looking at it and we're thinking, how can I use this to further my own well-being, my own life? How can I be more happy? Well, I know most people are not really happy. I had a very interesting person sitting next to me on the aeroplane. He was the head of the air traffic control for Hong Kong. Big position, right? So we were just talking and he said to me, there's all these young Chinese guys that, they're doing okay materially, but he said sometimes you go to their house and you see how they're living, and he said they're just working like dogs. They're just to maintain the status quo, to have their big apartment, to have their car. They have no life. But externally, he said, everything looks fine, everything looks wonderful. But they're struggling. And I said, yeah, there are many people in this world like that don't even have anything, and still they're struggling. So they're all different types of people at different ends of the spectrum, but basically most people are struggling with the mind, with the senses. And even if they have enough material welfare, they're still struggling with the social responsibilities they may have, the demands of other society members. Very, very difficult to not be absorbed and always trying to work out how to get ahead, how to increase. The spiritualists, on the other hand, may also be caught up in that situation where they're struggling for existence. We read Kulavecha Sridhar in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You could say he was a struggling person, right? He was making his living doing what? Just selling banana products. I mean, how much money can you make selling banana leaves? Maybe Sakit Roy can make a good living out of it, I don't know. But I don't know anybody else that could, have the intelligence to figure out how to do it. But Kulavecha Sridhar, he was just struggling, but still he was giving some donation, and he was absorbed in spiritual life. He was just doing it just to keep his body and soul together. And he was okay. He was quite happy, even though you could say he was struggling. Sudama Brahmana, you could say, was also struggling. Right? So we find that sometimes devotees, maybe from a material point of view, maybe they're struggling. But yet Krishna consciousness is the more important point in their life. So that is what takes them beyond being just a materialistic person. Other people, they look at them and they think, oh, he's just like me, see? He's doing this, he's doing that. But internally, a devotee, he's meditating on the Lord. He's also, of course, practicing meditation, audibly reciting the Hare Krishna mantra. And his main goal in life is, how can I advance my knowledge of Krishna, my bhakti for Krishna? And he doesn't really have the dilemma of a materialistic person, because at the end of his life, Krishna gives him remembrance. Krishna, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita says, from me comes remembrance. It's one of the things that comes from Krishna. I always remember before I became a devotee, I was thinking, yes, this philosophy is nice, I like chanting, but when I'm old, when I get a little older, then I'll practice Krishna consciousness. Right now, I have to do, I've got a few material desires I need to fulfill first, while I'm young and strong, got to get out there, got to taste the world, experience it all. And then when I'm burnt out, when I'm really burnt out, then I'll take Krishna consciousness seriously. I mean, maybe somebody else can relate to that, but many people in this world, they also think like that. They say, well, I'll go to the temple, I'll go to the church, and when I'm old, then I'll dedicate myself. The problem, of course, we know is that you can be, even healthy people die. Right? Even young, healthy people die, not to speak of old and decrepit ones. We don't have control over that part of life. So at every stage, the scriptures encourage us that at every stage of life, become Krishna conscious. Wherever you are, become Krishna conscious. So this is the distinguishing characteristic of a devotee. He's understood that point, that no matter what my condition may be, whatever opportunity I get, let me take that and remember Krishna somehow. And that's why devotees try to mold their life in such a way that they can become more attentive at all times. That's why you see, not just in Krishna consciousness, but in any spiritual denomination, people, they try to secure some residency near their place of worship. Like, for example, Jewish people, they have this thing that they're supposed to walk to the temple. They're supposed to live nearby and walk. So I was in New York, and you see some neighborhoods, they have their synagogue, and everybody's walking on a Friday, which is their holy day. They're all walking to the temple. They all live around their temple. And devotees, you find sometimes even devotees who are not practicing sadhakas, they want to at least live near a temple so that if they ever need to go, at least they can go easier than being a long way away. So we have this idea that if we have a connection and if we have an opportunity, then we want to take advantage of that. We want to take advantage of it because human life is quite rare. It's quite rare. I read something on LinkedIn yesterday. Somebody was saying, what are the they had a thing about what are the chances? What are the chances of being a millionaire? It was like 1%. What's the chance of being a billionaire? It was like 0001. What's the chance of winning the lottery? It was, even further. And then even further than that was, what are the chances of being born as a human being? I thought, oh, who's this person? Maybe it's a devotee or something. Right? What's the chances of being born? What's the chances of being born as a human being? We already know those statistics, right? There are more living entities inside our body than there are probably human beings in this whole world. So the human form of life is rare, and the opportunity to hear about Krishna is even more rare, and the opportunity to take up Krishna consciousness in the process are very rare. So as we go through life, we shouldn't take those things for granted. We should see that every moment is just like the first moment. If we can maintain that enthusiasm for our spiritual practices and for our interest in Krishna, then that will propel us to be outside of this materialistic life circle, outside of the conditioned life. You'll be liberated even while in this lifetime. You'll be a Jivan Mukta. You will be a liberated soul, even while living in this material world. Devotees often think, no, Prabhu, I'm so busy and this and that. But actually anybody who takes to this path, as the sages say, he's on the boat. You're on the boat, you're crossing the ocean. And actually devotees already crossed the ocean because they have knowledge. The sages are so kind. Krishna's so kind. And it's not that when devotees take the boat that they, that there's no other boat to go. Not to cross the material ocean. Prabhupada says that because the ocean for the devotee becomes so small, the material ocean becomes like the water containing the hoof print of a calf. The boat's always there. You can always go. Devotees always can go to the transcendental realm at a moment's notice. Because everything is on the platform of consciousness. At any moment you can be Krishna conscious. And being Krishna consciousness is a moment-to-moment experience. It's moment by moment. And moment by moment, well, it just builds up. You just keep joining more and more dots together, and instead of being at just one moment, it becomes 2 moments and 3 moments. Just like it says in the Bhagavatam, what is a moment? It's 1 lava matra, it's 1/11 of a second. Right? So those moments can go more and more together. And the more moments we spend in Krishna consciousness, the more we are connected with Krishna always. Sometimes people talk about, there was these 2 gatekeepers, we know Jai and Vijay, and they were outside the gates of heaven. Somebody was saying to me, well, they weren't in the spiritual world. They were outside, which is, they were out the door. Why did Lord Vishnu keep them outside? Were they good enough or something, or what? Of course, we may say, well, maybe they were just doing their job, and then at night time they go home, and go back through the gates. But because they were outside the gates, so to speak, the material influences, somebody says that's why they were influenced. And that's why devotees are influenced, because they're outside, the gate, they're outside the temple, for example. But devotees, why are they in the material world ultimately? Why are any of you here? It's because actually all of you are pure devotees, but out of kindness, you're going out at the gate, and you're letting even the material energy affects you, but you're actually going out there because you want to help other people. See? You want to help others. You want to give Krishna consciousness to others. Those who are a little bit more neophyte, they stay inside. They're not game to go outside the door. But those who are, if you're devotees who are out there, you're out there because you want to give Krishna consciousness to others. And for such persons, Krishna even gives special mercy. Right? You're like the sales force that's out there. Right? You're at the coalface. You have to meet so many different challenges. And I think everybody can attest to the fact that when you go out, there are many challenges. There are many distractions. Many distractions that may sometimes cover our consciousness or sometimes pollute our consciousness. But as soon as the devotee comes together and they see the deity and they hear Krishna Katha, all those things just wash away very, very quickly. And it's seen that those devotees, and even in our ISKCON society, who have endeavored to give Krishna to others, Krishna very mercifully gives himself to them. And this is the beauty of this studying this philosophy, because in the first purport here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Vyasadeva had already explained the texts of the Vedas in various ways up to the Mahabharata for the common person. But for the devotees, he's giving the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's giving some special mercy, special topics which explain about Krishna's life, Krishna's stories, Krishna's teachings. You can read about Krishna speaking. You can read. So these are special topics, and these are meant for the Paramahamsas, as it mentions. So devotees are Paramahamsas, although often we don't like to, we don't acknowledge each other that way, right? We say, oh, he's a neophyte, I'm a lad, he's a neophyte. Just like just like it says there are 4 stages of sannyas, right? Bahuda, Kudichak, Parivajikacharya, Paramahamsa. So somebody may distinguish and say, oh, he's only this type of sannyasi, he's only Parivajikacharya, my Guru Maharaj, he's a Paramahamsa. So sometimes the devotees may categorize each other. And they may say, oh, he's a Kanishta, he's a Madhyam, he's an Uttama. Only my Guru is an Uttama. But actually anybody who practices Krishna consciousness, who's taken this Krishna consciousness very seriously, and even maybe accepted initiation, taken some vows, worship the deity, do some service, you can't measure the good fortune of such personalities. In the whole creation, very few persons like that. When we speak about this, Manusyanam Sahasrishu Kaschit, that there were thousands among men, and we think, those who actually know Krishna, they're the devotees. Krishna's talking about his Krishna bhaktas. That's what Krishna's talking about. They know Krishna. They know. Even the most fallen devotee, they know, I should go to the temple, I should chant Hare Krishna. Because once you've been granted entrance into Krishna's family, you're part of his family, that's it. There's 2 energies, there's the Yoga Maya and there's the Mahamaya. So as soon as somebody practices Krishna consciousness, he's no longer under this energy of he's no longer under the influence of the material energies, he's directly under the influence of Krishna's energy. Even though it may appear, oh, he looks like he's in the mode of ignorance today or something, or mode of passion or something. No. Devotees actually have Krishna's mercy. Krishna himself helps to guide the lives of the devotees. Even you have some problem, Krishna is very kind. He arranges the punishment for you. when something goes wrong, you do something wrong, Krishna very kindly punishes you. Just like a father may punish the child sometimes. Krishna punishes you. When you learned your lesson, Krishna says, okay, come back, it's alright. You want another slap? Okay, bang. The devotee thinks, oh, thank you, Krishna. And just like in Christianity, they say, turn the other cheek. Right? Sometimes devotees got a red face, been slapped so many times by Krishna. But still they don't mind. Krishna, okay. Alright, they say, Krishna's mercy. Right? Krishna's mercy. So these sages of Naimisharanya and Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, they're ready to help the devotees, give knowledge, guide them on the path. And the conditioned souls who are absorbed in matter, they have a different life. They don't see it like that. They think, oh, it's always somebody else's fault. It's never my fault. Suffering in this world. I'm a good guy. Why am I suffering? I should just try harder. And the devotee thinks, yeah, it's my fault. And I should serve more. So there's a difference that are explained here. Even last night we were talking a little bit about what's the difference between a materialistic and a spiritual person. And we talked about this idea of selfishness. A godless person is a selfish person. Only thinking about himself. Right? God doesn't exist because if God existed, I'd have to share. Or I'd have to serve. Right? If God exists, then how could I be number one? Right? And a godly person, he's a selfless person. Bhakti means selfless. He's selfless all the time, giving himself, giving to others, always thinking how to serve others. So this idea of selfishness and selflessness and spirituality and material life, it really boils down to those things. So how much we can give ourselves to others, how much we can give to Krishna, this will be our distinguishing characteristic, and this will be what endears us to Krishna. What makes us dear to Krishna, that's what we want. And the sages are looking how to get association of somebody who's dear to Krishna. So maybe you have some comment about how we can become more dear to Krishna. What are the things that we can do that will endear us to Krishna? Some corrections that you can give me, maybe things that I missed out on. Tirtharaj Prabhu.
Yeah, whatever you said is right.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Just a comment
Yes.
that you were saying about Krishna punishing us. But in fact, Krishna never punishes us because Krishna has given us guidance and instructions and we don't follow that.
Mm-hmm.
So actually it's not Krishna's punishment because he is very merciful. When we do something wrong and we get the result of that, so as you said, the devotee said that it's Krishna's mercy. It could have been worse, but due to Krishna's mercy, I'm getting less suffering. So it's our own karmas which are the result of suffering. Krishna has nothing to do because people who are not in Krishna consciousness, when something good happens, they don't say that Krishna has done that. But if something wrong goes, that they say, why Krishna is doing this to me? Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course, a devotee obviously thinks that if something good happens, that's Krishna's mercy, and if something bad happens, that's due to my own past sinful deeds. At the same time, it's also said that when a devotee accepts Diksha, he becomes freed from all his past karmas. It also says that once having chanted the holy name, one becomes free from more sinful reactions than one could ever perform. So there is definitely something else going on. It is not for a devotee to think that a devotee is to think that, oh, this happened to a devotee, it's because of his karma, is also not correct, actually. Because it is Krishna's guidance. Let's say it's not a punishment. Let's say it's Krishna's guidance to help us. Of course, Srila Prabhupada said that, when he cut his finger, he says, Krishna should have cut off my hand, rather than cut my finger. So this is how a devotee sees it. Could we say that Hiranyakashipu was suffering karma? Was it because he was so sinful? Or was he engaged in some pastime also of the Lord? So it's very difficult, as Prabhupada mentions here, it's very difficult to judge the life of a devotee, or to judge what is inside him, the mind of a devotee. So one has to be also very cautious about passing judgment on a devotee. One has to be very, very cautious. Often whatever happens to devotees between the devotee and Krishna. And it's always best to see how one can serve the devotees rather than to try to judge the devotees. Devotees are all great yogis, actually. They're all great sages. And especially in the Kali Yuga, we were talking last night previously, people were able to meditate and sit in the forest and perform yajna. In this Kali Yuga that we live in, to practice spiritual life is actually extremely distracting. There's so many distractions. I mean, Ajamil fell down just by seeing a man and a woman embracing. Well, welcome to Kali Yuga, you know. You can see this at every moment. So for a devotee to maintain in that type of environment must be a very powerful person, isn't it? Devotees are actually very, very powerful people that in this age of Kali, they still continue to practice, the spiritual discipline, follow vows, chant mantras, do service, despite unbelievable amounts of distractions. So devotees are actually amazingly, they're siddhas. They have all perfections, devotees. Because that's a perfection, that in the face of so much temptation, they can continue to practice. And, when these yogis all get together, we have these gatherings, and then, yogis are also very powerful. They can curse each other too. Well, they can curse, but isn't it the yogis? Just one curse. Maharaj Parikshit was cursed by Shringi, who wasn't even a qualified brahmana. What to speak of somebody who's a Mahayogi, uttering a curse. Sometimes we see devotees cursing each other. It's like atom bombs going off. Have to be very, very careful. So these are the activities that the devotees are written about in the Srimad Bhagavatam. One day you're going to be in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. You realize that? People are going to write about you. How in Brisbane devotees did this and that. So these are not just ordinary activities that devotees have. Devotees are not under the influence like that. They're under Krishna. Krishna guides and Krishna helps.
Is it wrong to have fear as part of the motivation in turning to Krishna, like to become fearful of having to take birth again, and perhaps suffering again more and more lives?
Yeah.
Yes, in some respects, all motivation is good motivation, but I worry about being too fearful.
There's in change management, there are two paths that the one is the path of love and the one is the path of punishment. And they found that actually people don't change very easily when you just love them all the time. Although it's a great philosophy. It's like when they, if they make a street from a two-way street to a one-way street in India, for example, do people follow that much? They'll still go down there because it's the shortest way, right? But if they make the road so that you just can't enter, right, that only people can go this way, then it works, right? Then people follow. So sometimes force may be there. And so Prabhupada mentions in one conversation, he said, the problem with you Western people is that you're not afraid of Maya. So often many devotees just not afraid of doing something sinful or doing something bad. So if you do have some fear of doing something bad, it's actually not a bad thing. Don't become paranoid, okay? But a healthy amount of fear of offending people or causing offense to Krishna, it's okay. But it should be balanced also with some love. Love is a better option. But in the conditions, or in the beginning stage, we just may not have that much love. So devotees are a little bit fearful of offences, or they're fearful of doing something wrong. But don't always remain like that. Also show some love at some point. Don't always be so frightful of Krishna. in the Vaishnava philosophy actually talks about different relationships. So in the beginning, people have, awe and reverence. It's a little bit, awe and reverence can also be fear. But the Vedas talk about this sometimes. That sometimes people are, why are they so familiar? Right? We find in the life of, I think it was Madhvacharya Ramanuja Acharya, one of his servants, who was criticized because, he was sitting on the Guru's bed, and they said, "How dare you sit on the Guru's bed?" But he said, "No, I just tried to check and make sure it's comfortable for him." You see, so sometimes there's the fear, but sometimes in love there may also be something which appears to be a transgression. So you have to learn to balance that. But that will come automatically with progress. Yeah. Yes.
Firstly, my humble, respectful obeisance to you,
Hare Krishna.
and my love and blessings to everyone present here.
Uh-huh.
So happy to see you here, Prabhu.
Hey, you've taken Babaji, is it? Or was it just the winter?
After many years of, very close, intimate spiritual association with you, and then missing it for some years. Now, I have a comment in Bhagavatam, Canto 3, about chapter 18 or thereabout. Brahma says that even all the demigods, Brahma himself, desires a human body. It is so important. And further on that, Lord Krishna in his incarnation of Lord Ramachandra, clearly explains this, that our human body is a gift from God himself. It's a blessing. People may argue, "Oh, no, that's rubbish." And he says, no, the union of our parents are the means by which Krishna has given us this body, just like as a car is a means of transport from one place to another. And further, Lord Ramachandra explains to his congregation that our human body is like a sailing ship. We've got a wonderful sailing ship, seaworthy, and these sacred scriptures, like Srimad Bhagavatam Gita, they are like the wind for the sailing ship. You have a beautiful sailing ship, you've got the wind, everything, but you need a very good, competent captain. And our spiritual master is the captain for that. So you have to follow our spiritual. And another thing he says, Lord Ramachandra, among the bhakti, association with the devotees is a solid step towards that. That's all.
Thank you for sharing that, Hare Krishna. Thank you, very nice.
If you could comment more on this, or
I think you've explained everything very nicely, and I'm just in awe of your bhakti. So thank you very much for sharing that with us.
And that's why I come in here and sure that when
Yeah,
I come to the temple, I must not miss Prabhupada's puja.
Thank you. All right, so thank you very much. Tirtharaj Prabhu ki, Prabhupada ki.